Attention Austin guitarist, are you in need of setup or repair on your axe? Well, I have the guy for you. That's my friend Jason Swedberg over at J. Scott Lutherie. You can find him at J. Scott Lutherie on Facebook. Gang, I've been taking my guitars to Jason for over 20 years, and not only does he do the very best job, but he has the fastest service and the best prices in town. Find him at J. Scott Lutherie on Facebook or jason.swedberg@gmail.com. Gang, whether it's acoustic or electric, Jason is your guy. Get your guitars fixed. Folks, are you tired of people telling you your band is too darn loud when you're just trying to practice in your house or garage? Well, if you live in Austin, I have the solution for you. That's Space Rehearsal and Recording. Space is a state-of-the-art affordable venue for rehearsal and recording, located just a few short miles south of downtown Austin. They have 31 spacious rooms, great PAs, fantastic courteous staff. They have everything you need to get your artistic business together at Space. Find them at 512-448-9518 or go to spaceatx.com and start playing as loud as you want in Space, Rehearsal, and Recording. Let's get down.
And you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here?
It's time for How Did I Get Here? And now here is your host, Johnny.
When we talked,
All right. Hello, I'm Johnny. I'm your host. Welcome to the show. I hope you guys have all had a good weekend, whatever it is you did this weekend. I had a pretty busy weekend. Started out playing Thursday night with Bonnie Whitmore at her show at the Continental Club Gallery here in Austin. We traded songs. It was a lot of fun, man. I love playing with Bonnie. I love her songs. She was great accompanying me. We just had a really good time. It was, sometimes shows are just really fun, you know? Same thing happened Friday. Skyrocket played at someone's birthday party. It was like this girl's 30th birthday party. She wasn't from Austin. No one was from Austin. And they all came in from all over the country, and they were wearing costumes. And you know how there's that thing, like when people put on a costume, maybe they have an intense job, no matter what it is, if you high level, low level, whatever, an intense job, and you got to be, you know, intense all the time. But then sometimes you put on this costume and you can be whoever it is that you'd like to be that night. And I feel like people put on these costumes and just were crazy, and crazy in the best way possible. Like, we had a great time. The crowd was fantastic. Saturday we went to Houston. I took Rosie with me. She stayed with my grandma and my aunt, my cousins again. They had a great time. And we played another birthday party that was in a hotel ballroom. That was a good time. It was just a great weekend all around. They had these dancers at the second birthday party, and like a lady that put on a roller skating display. It was pretty interesting. Roller skating, like, you don't really think like, you know, what does someone do? Like, that's an actual job. Like, say you love roller skating. This lady has a job where she goes out and like just roller skates at people's parties and puts on like these roller skating displays with like these other dancers. I can't remember what the name of the entertainment company was, but I talked to a couple of dancers for a while. They were very, very cool and super fun. And they really bring the room to life. Like, you know, you start playing and then all of a sudden these dancers come out and start doing these incredible dances. And then they start kind of grabbing people from the audience, you know, people sitting at the tables. Hey, don't sit down. Come on out and dance. It's interesting, though, that that's a job, right? Just like mine. Like, you grow up and you're like, hey, I want to play music. Well, you know, you don't end up being Bono or something, but you can just keep on playing music and you can get a job doing it. These guys are dancers. They love dancing. I'm sure they probably have to have another job or something like that. Unless there really is a demand for like roller skaters and dancers for parties. I don't know, but sometimes I see them. Anyway, it was a good weekend all around. It was great to spend a little time with my cousin Megan and my cousin Emily, see my aunts and uncles in Houston, of course, my grandma. Rosie had a great time, and actually heading back there today, Monday, because we're playing on Tuesday in Houston again. And hey, gang, I want to let you know if you're a Skyrocket fan, you live in San Antonio, we're playing this Friday, December 17th at Sam's Burger Joint. Always a good time there. And if you live in Houston, Skyrocket is playing New Year's Eve at the Astorian. So we're pretty excited about that. Always fun going to the Astorian. This is like, I think, our third New Year's Eve there. Great time. So, yeah, get your tickets. You can go to skyrockettheband.com, get tickets through there. It's an Eventbrite, link or whatever. Go get your tickets. Come out and party with us on New Year's Eve in Houston, Texas. All right? Gang, I have a great show for you today. A fantastic show. Tony Kamel from Grammy-nominated string band Wood and Wire is my guest on the show today. Now, he just released his debut solo album, which is called Back Down Home, and it's on Next Waltz Records, and it was produced by the great Bruce Robeson. The amazing Bruce Robeson, amazing songwriter. You can find him at TonyCamelMusic.com. This record is fantastic, and it's all deals with like characters and situations on the Gulf Coast, which is really weird because like right now, a year ago, I went and spent a month. I talk about it with him, and I'm sure you if you listen to the show and you were listening last year, I was at the beach for a month with my family in Galveston on the beach. We lived there for a month. It was absolutely fantastic. And we had a great time, but I grew up going to Galveston, and this whole record is kind of set in that area, you know, in the Gulf Coast, on the Gulf Coast. Sorry, and with all of the weird characters that there are down there, and so not only did he make a record that is kind of like set with this Gulf Coast backdrop and all the characters that live in it, he did a podcast to accompany the record. It's called the Back Down Home Podcast, and it features conversations with the people who brought the record to life, as well as other artists who dive into some deeper facts of the album's subject matter: the Gulf Coast, going back to day jobs, overcoming sudden changes. And you can go find it right now. It's called the Back Down Home Podcast. He has some guests on there like Caroline Rose, Bruce Robeson, the producer of the record and founder of Next Waltz Records, and Rex Bell, Towns Van Zant's longtime bassist and a Galveston resident, and of course the owners of the Old Quarter Acoustic Cafe. Anyway, I love that area and I really identify with it. And Tony and I have a really great conversation about it and about how it informed his music and how he just kind of like dove into this culture of that world. You know what I mean? Because it is a world. It's its own world. Like people go down to the Gulf Coast and they go to Galveston. It's the end of a place. Like people go there to get lost and get away from something. That's a real thing. So Tony really explores it. And I can't believe we've never met, but it was a great conversation, like getting to sit down and talk to this dude and get to know him and really having that connection about the Gulf Coast and about Galveston and everything. So check out his record, Back Down Home, available now wherever it is you stream and download your jams. Listen to his podcast, the Back Down Home Podcast, available wherever it is that you stream and listen to your podcast. And without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Wood and Wire's Tony Kamel about his brand new debut solo album, Back Down Home. Let's get down.
Look out the window, out in the street. It burns like a banjo. Bring on the heat. Good time in Louisiana, thicker than air. Quicker to get up and move that
But I have to tell you, I just listened to your podcast.
Yeah.
All 3 episodes that I even listened to the trailer.
Oh, good, man. Thank you.
Dude, what a great job, too.
Thanks.
Hey, is there going to be more Galveston stuff in there, too?
Yeah,
because I love the
eventually.
record stuff, but I love your reverence for...
I'm so glad you do, and I've heard a lot from people like you who understand and love Galveston, you know?
People have been going there their whole lives.
Yeah, and it's such a thing for guys like you and me and people who discover it.
Right.
You know?
Right. Well, dude, I have to tell you this. It's so special, like, to me and my whole family. Like I've had girlfriends that have been like, I'd be like, man, I really want to go to the beach. I'll be like, God, but do we have to go to Galveston again? So, but my grandma, like last year, she was 97 then. Now she's 98. She was sick of sitting at home staring at the walls, and she was like, I'm going to get a beach house like on the beach in Galveston.
Great.
You guys want to come down? So I spent the whole month of December there.
Oh, that's like, it's one of the best times to be down there too.
Oh,
It really
unbelievable.
is.
Yeah.
Where was the place that you got?
What's the Spanish
Grant?
Spanish Grant.
Yeah, that's a wonderful
Yeah.
area, man.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
right at the end of the street. We had a hot tub and the huge porches looking over the beach.
There's something great about the wintertime down there is
Mm-hmm.
that it's so much quieter and more still. And for obvious reasons like the tourists and stuff like that. But, you know, it being colder and it just has this ambiance that you can't even really describe, you know. It's really, really fun.
Yeah. You know what the funniest thing though in your podcast though that like all the stuff about I've never played at Old Quarter Acoustic Cafe. I've always had this fantasy that I would and people would like me there maybe, but I was thinking the whole time I was like my whole music thing in Galveston was at Yaga's.
Yeah, Yaga's is great too. Maybe I could do a whole other episode on Yaga's, you know? And but I couldn't get into Yaga, even with like my fake ID or whatever back then. I think maybe you can get in under 21 now, but I couldn't get into Yaga's. For some reason, Rex I don't know if he didn't care or people just didn't bug him. Like I had a fake ID, but I could go into Old Quarter at 18, 19 years old.
Right.
And get in trouble.
Seems like it's that kind of place.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's the greatest.
Yeah.
So when would you go to Yaga's? Would you just?
Well, I mean, dude, no. I mean, I was playing there.
Oh, awesome.
And it was like 89 and 90.
Yeah, I bet that was fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, I've never played at Yaga's. I wanted to. But.
I've played a lot at the for some reason UTMB Fraternity Row, like a lot, like
really?
Probably more than 9 times.
Wow,
which is a lot for a career to play one specific fraternity area. So you grew up, you were born in Houston and you grew up going there?
Yeah, it was one of those things where I was a lucky kid and we had a beach house. Basically.
Oh, you did? Cool.
Yeah,
where?
In Pirates Beach.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's where I grew up going.
Yeah, it's great. And, so I don't claim to be a native Galvestonian or anything, but I spent, literally, there was a large chunk of years where I spent almost half my time there.
There's got to be a name for people like us. It was also a thing, like when I was a kid, like I lived in the Woodlands, but like on days that were like the first day that was like really nice of spring, my mom would, like, I'd get a note that would be like, hey, that you got a doctor's appointment. I'd be like, what? I go walking up the front, my mom would have my bathing suit, like, let's go to Galveston. Yeah.
Man, I'm sure that the locals have names for guys like you and me. But
yeah, like halfsies.
Maybe something like that. And I don't know how they feel about us, but I managed to meet a lot of locals over the years, and it's just a really and truly, like, the locals and the people there are one of my biggest inspirations. Yeah. In addition to, I love the beauty of it that I've found in it and the nostalgia. That love for it comes from all these weird people I met over the years. I was really fearless as a teenager, and I would go downtown and just talk to random people, everyone from bouncers at bars and try to convince them to let me come in to prostitute once that I met on a street, just bullshit with her.
How old were you when that went down?
What's that?
How old were you when you met the prostitute?
I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
And she was cool. I mean, it was an eye-opening experience just to see someone like that as a human being. You know what I mean? At that age, I had this view of what that might mean. And, but that was somewhat of a formative experience that I haven't managed to figure out how to write about yet.
Yeah. Dude, I lost my virginity on Pirates Beach.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, I tried to lose my virginity on Pirates Beach.
So it's funny because there's this thing, and did you ever see the Jinx, that HBO thing about the guy that chopped up the guy? What's his name?
Oh yeah, Robert something.
Yeah, Robert Durst.
Yeah, Robert Durst, who hid down there. I did see that actually.
There is like an end of the line thing that happens. Like you go down there to get away from, so that you can't go any further.
It's true, and I found that to be the case for many, many beach towns.
Yeah.
Even the nice ones. You see the drifters sort of around, and I'm not saying Galveston's not nice, but you know what I mean. Like you go to Newport Beach or something, and maybe one of the nicest, richest beaches, or even up in Martha's Vineyard or something. I don't know. You still find people who sort of made their way there and kind of get stuck there. And they all kind of smell the same, and you get that salty air thing going, and I instantly feel at home when I end up at a beach somewhere across the world.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny. Dude, Maureen Guido, whose family owned Guidos in the Woodlands, was in homeroom from like 4th to 9th grade, like right in front of me.
Wow.
Always. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like we're going to a really nice dinner with the family.
Yeah, that was the thing.
Yeah,
man.
we'd go to Guido's.
What was the other place? The Spindle Trap? What was that joint?
I haven't been there. I don't
But
think.
you know what I'm talking about? It was on the Strand. Maybe it was just around in like the 70s and 80s.
I don't know that spot. It might have predated my memory anyway. But Guido's, that's like, I went there a couple of months ago with my mom.
Really?
Just sort of as a walk down memory lane. It was fun.
I love it down there.
Yeah,
I
I'm
really
glad.
do. I just, one of my cousins got married at the Balinese Room, and maybe 2 years before it got destroyed, and I was stoked because I got to sing like the first dance. But my thing was like, oh, cool. So I got to sing in the same place where like Dino and Sammy and Frank sang and shit like that.
Yeah, man. It's
Yeah.
something that I think even people nearby in Houston don't really realize that there's a really thick history there.
Yeah.
And musically and otherwise.
And the Juneteenth thing too.
That is something I think almost nobody knows about, which is wild.
I think after last year they do.
Okay, good.
A lot more
good.
people do. Yeah.
Good. But it was, and it's, that house is still there, just sitting right there. And there's no more than a plaque standing there, you know, and, but it's got a lot going on. And, I mean, I didn't even know that until I didn't learn that necessarily in school. At least I wasn't paying close attention in high school anyways, but it took me just meandering around the island for someone to point that out.
Right.
You know? And it's pretty special.
Yeah. So for the guys at your label, Next Waltz Records, because they're probably like, I don't know if it's just, to me, it's like Bruce and like their kids and like a bunch of people he put to work or something. I was hoping it was 10 minutes. It's 8 minutes and 22. I'll bring up the album.
Okay, cool. That sounds good. 8 minutes and 22 is close.
So all of these characters, because I was trying to get, I wanted to cover the area first. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Almost like, do you ever read Michener, James Michener?
No.
You cover the area, you cover the dude and his work, and it's so informed. Like I went back and listened. There's a song called "John" by Wood and Wire.
Yeah, I wrote that
it's
song.
Another story about a guy.
So John is a guy named, his name is actually John Stewart. We grew up together. We went to high school together.
Okay.
We both went to private school. We went to Strake Jesuit.
Oh yeah. That's across. Like my grandma lives on the other side of Gessner from there.
Dude, our
In that
grandparents
neighborhood.
lived in the same neighborhood then.
No
'Cause
shit?
My grandparents and my mom.
Like on the golf course or something.
Yeah, on the golf course. They lived on Bel Air Golf Course, or Sharpstown Golf Course.
Holy shit,
I don't
that
know
is
what hole
wild.
it is, but our grandparents lived in the same neighborhood.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
My
that's
mom
cool.
grew up in that house and everything. And so I went to my grandparents' house every other day after school.
Amazing.
After football practice and stuff. Wow, man. That's pretty serendipitous.
The only reason I wanted to go to Strake Jesuit was just so I could go to my grandma's house every day after school.
Yeah, I was like a legacy there. My dad went there and my mom went to St. Agnes.
Yeah.
So I kind of didn't have a choice, even though I probably shouldn't have been let in. But I didn't know what I was given at the time. I took it for granted, I think. But overall, I had a lot of fun with my friends there and really enjoyed it. But
So this guy John.
oh yeah, okay, thank you. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
John,
I feel like there's going to be a lot of those tangents. Up
yeah,
there. That's all right.
I tend to ramble, and that's my fault. But
Yeah.
when you go to Strake and you're lucky kids like we were, and your friends most of your friends come from pretty well off. I mean, not freakishly rich people, but they can afford to go to private school.
Right.
All of our friends graduated, went to college, and so did I, but they came back and got jobs in business or became lawyers or doctors and got back to Houston, and they're all doing great. They're
Right.
all still my very close friends. John became a commercial salmon fisherman in Alaska and spent the winter time in Galveston fixing busted furniture, a furniture restoration guy. And he was also a really good poet. He still is. He's not dead or anything. And a very brief graffiti artist. He
That's the Banksy reference in there.
exactly. So he would spray paint these jackalopes
Yeah.
all over the island,
Yeah.
and then he got caught, and he realized it's a pretty severe penalty if you're doing that, you know. So he was really briefly a graffiti artist, but he does still paint. So yeah, that song's about him because he and I were kindred spirits in that we didn't follow the sort of typical path of most of our
Prep
friends.
school kids.
Exactly.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And that's probably one of my favorite songs. I generally eventually start to dislike my songs, but that one I've just sort of grown to really love more and more.
It's great.
Thank you.
I have to say this, that when you're listening to especially that band has a specific sound, it comes from an era, and a name and a reference like Banksy really stands out because it's so modern.
Right.
You know what I mean? When you say it in there, it's like, oh, yeah.
It stuck out, and that camp comes up over and over again, or it did when the record came out and people were writing about it. And I thought it was an interesting way of making something just different, you know. Plus,
Yeah.
it's just what he was. That's exactly what he was.
Yeah.
And I talked to him about it because I was like, I hope this doesn't like hurt your feelings. He's like, when I first heard it, kind of stung like just the tiniest bit, but then I realized he's like, no, that's exactly what I was trying to be. That's exactly what I was trying to be. So,
Wow.
yeah.
So back to Back Down Home.
Mm-hmm.
Those characters, there's more characters that influence this record as well.
Sure.
There's I don't know about the surfer, but that seems like that would be about a cat down there. There was a line on there.
Yeah, it's about a specific person.
Yeah, living in a Motel 6 on the coast. How that dirty old water sure makes a man clean.
Yeah. I started writing that line on the way down to Matagorda one day, but that's all I got to was basically just that line. And then last August, I was in Surfside, which is east of Galveston, outside of Freeport. Place people can go to surf when there are waves. The waves are better there.
Right.
And I was just about to go out into the water, and I saw this guy that I had seen out there for years, as late teens up to now, but I never talked to him. He was always out in the water surfing, and he wasn't this time. And he told me how so I talked to him for the first time ever, and he had a hip replacement, and he needed several surgeries on it. His hands were messed up from laying tile, and he had been living in the Motel 6 in Freeport, and then he kind of got into the old days about how he would go with his buddies down to South Padre Island and chase waves when there were hurricanes in the Gulf, and kind of told me his whole life story. And then I went back to my uncle's house in San Luis Pass and wrote a few verses of that song. And it's probably my favorite recording on the record. Or my favorite song on the record, just because the way it all went down. And I'm trying to find the guy. I never got his name. And I know what he looks like, and I know someone that looks just like him. So I think I'm just going to go down to Surfside and start showing people that guy's picture so I can track him down for the podcast.
Yeah. Dude, people got to get out there. It's the Back Down Home podcast.
It's called Back Down Home.
Sorry.
Beyond the Liner Notes.
Beyond the Liner Notes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. It's all right. That's what it is.
I'm going to fuck up people's...
And-
it's like when people go like, hey, man, I check out your podcast, man. How did we get there? It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. Like, you're great. You should write a fucking book about this stuff. Like, you should put this podcast in like the Galveston Museum of History or whatever.
Well,
Whatever they got going on down there.
The funny thing about it, Johnny, is I still don't. I have a few things I'm working on, but it's not even. I have no real plan.
Yeah.
I have some things are planned out, and I really didn't know what it was going to be. COVID kind of made it hard to work on before the record came out.
Right,
so
right.
I'm just gonna. What I love about it is there's no pressure about it. I'm making something that I'm making,
Well,
and I don't care if people listen to it or not. I'm making it for me, and it's like,
I dig that, but I just have to tell you that there's a fan out there that's anxiously awaiting
man.
episodes to drop. So,
appreciate
so
it,
don't
man.
fuck around too much because you'll bum me out.
I know. I'm thinking. I'm trying to get something out every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
yeah, I'm hoping I can increase the frequency a little more if things get rolling.
You know, can I give you some?
I would love.
I've been
some
doing this for
advice.
like 10
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
and this is the one piece of advice I give everyone: is it's real hard to do,
Yeah.
and it's a thankless job.
Yeah.
I am insane and feel like if I don't put out 2 or more shows a week, then I'll get bored.
Sure.
If I get ahead of this, I think I'll get bored, and I'm scared that I will. So I just keep piling more shit in front of me. So
Yeah.
I'm never ahead on it. But the main thing is to keep these things going. I think you have to find a rhythm that works with your.
I agree.
Can't burn yourself out
I
because
agree.
it's not easy.
Yeah, and I don't want to force anything either. I've got a conversation recorded with Caroline Rose that I'm really excited about. She's one of my favorite.
She's on the
musicians.
record?
No, but
No.
she there's a tune on the record called "Who Am I Kidding?"
Uh-huh.
And it's a song I wrote about thinking about going back to or getting some sort of more consistent day job and stuff. And Caroline
Yeah.
and I became friends a few years ago, and she was an architect, you know, and I saw a live stream she did where she's like, I think about going back to my old job every day, you know, and I felt the same way.
But did you go to college and get like a degree in
Yeah.
something? Okay, good.
Yeah, I went to UT here.
Okay.
And got a degree in psychology, and then I sold total joint replacement implants for 7 years. And I actually liked the job, and it was making good money, and kind of accidentally found myself in a successful bluegrass band and had to decide. So I decided I might as well try to play music for a living, and I'm still doing it.
You're in a tremendously successful bluegrass band.
We did a lot of great things. We have done a lot of great things. We're kind
You
of
went
on
to
a
the
break
fucking
right now.
Grammys, man.
Yeah, that was fun. It was cool.
I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Dude, you are such a great songwriter. I want to get back to Back Down Home.
Okay, cool. Let's
Please.
get back to
I'm
that.
sorry. I'm so
That's okay.
excited about it.
I'm excited about it too, man. It's been fun.
So you guys recorded this live, and when you go watch these videos that you have, like on your website and stuff,
Right.
from Next Waltz Records, these are the actual takes of what you were. So you did like the vocals live, and you guys just fucking rolled tape. This was done analog.
Yep.
I saw photos, 2-inch tape, 24 track, or did you go 16?
16.
Okay,
16.
that's cool.
MCI off of an MCI
Nice.
board, 16 track. And yeah, you're right. One of the great things about Bruce and his team there, he's got a guy named Jacob there that's really good. He sets up all these cameras, and they're rolling all the time. So we recorded basically everything. So every
Brilliant.
video we put out, and since we were doing it live, it was pretty easy to do, every video is the take that is on the record.
Yeah.
So, and it was really fun to do it that way. And I liked doing it that way because I like a little bit of pressure, and I like to perform.
Right.
I like to perform in the studio.
Yeah.
That's how I get my best shit.
Yeah.
And I was a little nervous about it because I had recorded to tape, but tape then goes into Pro Tools and it gives you all these options and stuff. But it only took about a song for me to start grooving. And I'd worked in the studio before with Bruce as a sideman and with Wood and Wire. So
With Wooden Wire, I mean, obviously you guys you have to record like that.
we do.
If
yeah.
you don't, you're dicks.
Right,
You know what I mean?
exactly,
You're
yeah.
insulting the tradition of what that music is.
Right. And, but what we could do is take 3 takes
Sorry.
of a song. It's okay.
Yeah,
No, you're
yeah,
right.
yeah.
And go and say, you know what? That
First
verse
one.
was better.
Right.
Let's just grab that verse. You know, it was still a live verse, but that verse in this take was better.
Right.
And we could, at the Zone in Dripping Springs where we did those records.
That's a great place.
Yeah, it's awesome. Pat, their engineer, is fantastic.
He's a great drummer too.
Yeah, he's an excellent drummer. Yeah, he's a busy
Great.
guy.
Yeah.
You know, just having those options gives you some confidence and peace of mind.
Yeah.
And also we kind of got a little different with effects and stuff like that. With In Wood and Wire, we like to kind of experiment, especially on the most recent record, with things like that. So
On this record, it's extremely organic sounding. So obviously, you're all playing together, and it's capturing magic, right? That's what you guys were doing. You weren't carving out perfection. You were capturing magic, and Bruce was the decider.
that's his goal.
Of the
is
magic.
is to capture this thing. I'll tell you this because I think a lot of musicians listen to this podcast, and maybe this will make sense to them. When you're in a band or you're with a group of people that you work with, when you arrange songs, you have a new song, and it's the song itself is complete, but it's not arranged, and then you get together and you work on the arrangement and you play it, and you get this thing where it feels like, man, you feel that energy.
Is it? Yeah.
And it's exciting. And that new energy for
Yeah.
the first time you get
Yeah.
that, there's something about that, and I think that's something that was what I was trying to get those 3.5 days we were in the bunker recording.
That's how long you were in there.
We were there tracking for 3.5 days.
Shit,
We did a
amazing.
few overdubs, and we mixed for like 8 days.
Okay.
We overdubbed harmonies, overdubbed horns, overdubbed a few supplemental instruments like tambourine and
Sure.
and triangle and stuff. But that's what we were. That in my mind, that's what I was trying to feel, was that excitement of a demo, but put onto really nice vintage gear and straight to tape.
Well, it's funny because a lot of that stuff, and I'm sure, I mean, I've not on this show because Bruce has never been on here, but we're talking about Bruce Robeson. I'm sure you'll know that we're talking about him from what I said about him in the intro. I love that guy.
He's great.
But a lot of the things that turned us on in pop music came through the Wrecking Crew, which was those guys getting a chord chart and coming up with shit on the spot. Right. Cutting it live with that communication between, like, that's the magic. It makes the hair on my arm stand up just talking about it. Like,
it was a really visceral experience. In the beginning, the first song we tracked, I was so nervous about.
Yeah.
Because I knew a few of the musicians really well. They were some of my best friends, and I didn't know the other ones very well at all. And so, even though Wood and Wire was very successful, has been very successful, I'm actually a pretty inexperienced musician in a lot of ways. Like, Wood and Wire was my first band, and it was sort of this stroke of luck that it all worked out that way. I had barely ever played with drums, barely ever, I'd done very few recording projects outside of Wood and Wire, so I was nervous. And that first take of that first song, or the first song...
What was the first song?
It's not on the record. It's the only song that didn't make the record. And I was the only person on the entire team, Bruce, all the people of the Next Waltz, all the musicians, that didn't want it on the record. And
you vetoed it.
I vetoed it. And that tells you something about Bruce, is that he let me have that final decision.
Yeah.
So even though it might have been his favorite one. And he still was like, okay, if that's what you want. But I could just hear my hesitance. I could hear the hesitancy in my singing. So I didn't want to hear that forever. Maybe we'll redo it, or maybe I'll listen to that track again. I haven't heard it in months, and I'll be like, you know what, that's really good. Let's put it out, or put it on the next one. But for now, I didn't want it on this one. But once we started tracking the next song, which was the first track on it now, Amen, I felt this groove coming from the guys that I was like, man, this is going to be great. And then from there, it was just smooth sailing.
Great. It's a great, yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah. When you went in to make this record, did you, like, how did the idea of, like, I'm going to do a Tony Kamel record?
I've wanted to do it for years.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it if it wasn't the appropriate time. And Wood and Wire was very, very busy for a long time. And it didn't make sense to me to interrupt that in any way. And so I wasn't going to do it unless it took a pandemic, two of us having babies, and two of us getting day jobs for me to be like, okay, maybe it's a good time for me to do this. And even then, it was still not, it was still a weird thing for me to do. Everyone is somewhat supportive, but it doesn't mean that it's like there aren't these extra layers that come with something like that.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, that's just the truth. And I need to recognize also that out of all the guys, since I'm the lead singer of Wood and Wire, I get to benefit from our success more than anyone in any other side projects that we do.
Right.
So, that's all true stuff, but it just kind of is the nature of the situation.
If any of the Wood and Wire guys are listening right now, you can rest assured, because when Kiss released their 4 solo albums, Ace Frehley's did the best.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know.
There's an Ace Frehley out. You never know. And I'm not saying yours won't do well.
I hope Dom, our bass player,
he's doing
bass player, he's recorded a bunch of supplemental material where he's singing. He's got an incredible voice. He's a great lead singer, a great frontman. He doesn't do that in Wood and Wire. I wish he'd release that stuff, but it takes money to do that. And I was just lucky enough to have Bruce ready to sort of make it all happen.
Yeah, yeah.
And
so how did that come about? So you were playing Bruce the songs or something, and he was like, boom, record deal.
It was 4 years in the making, really. I mean, I met him 5 years ago or so. Dom and I went in to record something for a songwriter named Christy Hayes, who's great.
Oh, yeah, she's great.
That's when we met, and then Wood and Wire did some stuff there, and he just sort of heard that the songs I was writing for Wood and Wire weren't bluegrass songs. And they weren't. They were just a bluegrass band. So he heard something in the songs that he knew I could do something outside of it. I always did too.
Yeah, yeah.
It was not my first love. I got into bluegrass late. So he asked me if I do the record years ago, and I was like, yeah, maybe if we're about to put out another record, and then maybe during the in between time.
Yeah.
Well, the in-between time was right about to happen, and then we got the Grammy nomination. I was like, okay, cool. Never mind. I'm going, hitting the gas on Win More. So it's been a long process, honestly. Like, it's been 4 or 5 years in the making.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I was going to do it with Bruce. It was always like, maybe I will. Maybe I'll do it on my own. I didn't decide
Like in your room or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't decide like I'm definitely going to do it with Bruce in the next waltz until early 2021.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So you started this earlier this year.
We recorded it. The 3 days we did it were a couple of different, 3.5 days were a couple of different blocks of days in late February and early March, right after the freeze.
Wow.
To 1 month between recording and completion as far as the music goes. 1 month between starting and it being mastered.
Yeah. I can't remember if you said this in if I read you talking about this or if I heard you talking about it in the podcast, that it was his vibe is very laid back in there and everyone's just having a good time. It's not a stressful scene.
No, he's super mellow. Very, very mellow. And I like that a lot. It took a minute to sort of get to know his communication.
Yeah.
But I think that'd be the case with anybody. But he's really mellow, and there was almost zero stress during the entire time.
Yeah. There's a funny, it's so funny because like I picked up when I listened to it, it was like, oh, this is the sound that he like wants the most, is like some kind of American tinged with soul.
Me or Bruce?
Bruce.
Yeah, I
like,
think he just wants stuff that sounds different to him.
Yeah.
Or different than anything. I hope that that's what I was achieving. It wasn't necessarily trying to be different. It's just stuff that I liked. But I think he's just trying to find something that's different, and I think he's doing a pretty good job of that so far.
Is it hard to sing with just fiddles like you do on Change? That
Nope.
seemed hard.
No, because
Sliding notes and shit.
the guy playing the fiddle, Noah Jeffries, is one of the best musicians on the planet. And,
Yeah.
And, we were roommates for a while. We're just really good friends. So I was very comfortable doing it with him.
Beautiful closer for the record's like a hymn,
Thank you.
Yeah.
I wrote that one after my dad died.
Oh.
And
When did that happen?
it happened in 2014, excuse me. December 16th, 2014. So we're coming up on 7 years. And he had a stroke the year before, and it was just devastating. And he went from being like this vibrant attorney that was friends with everybody to a guy who would read hundreds of pages of things a day to a guy who couldn't talk or read anymore. So it was a really difficult time. And when he was gone, he was gone when he had the stroke, and when he died,
Right.
That just sort of put an end to that time. So yeah, but I wanted it to be universal. Anyone whose life gets flipped on its head can hopefully relate to that song, as opposed to me just being like, I lost my dad or whatever. It's
Yeah.
Could be anything.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. You did a great job of that.
Thank you.
You ever think of writing? Do you write longer form, like short stories or novels?
I've never tried.
You'd be good at it.
Maybe I've always, this may be a weird thing to say, but I don't like to read. I don't like to read books. I force myself to do it sometimes, almost out of like guilt, So I've read quite a bit of books. It's like, you need to read this. But I do like books on tape.
Yeah.
And listening, because I'm an audible learner, I'm a musician, and I like hearing things and consuming information that way. So I honestly feel like if I were to write a novel, it would just feel like I was doing a bunch of fucking homework. I'd be like, I don't know if I can get into it.
Right.
So I like to write stupid jokes as a way of freeing my mind and getting ready for writing other stuff, but they're not good. It's not like a skill I have. I do it to help me loosen up a little bit.
Right. You're not one of those guys that has a fantasy of like writing for some comedy show, like in the room with the rest of the people, just making dick jokes.
No,
like, all day.
I
guess that would be horrible.
I actually think it'd be fun, but I have this. I wouldn't call it a fantasy, but I really like stand-up comics and that art form. I don't think that I could do it, but I do think that that's a cool art form that I wish I could do.
I used to have this show. It's like 2005 or 2006 with these comedians. It was called Oddville at Momo's, and it was every Monday.
I remember this.
It was alternating comics and musicians. And one night, those guys talked me into doing 5 minutes.
Oh boy,
It's horrible.
Oh, did it go bad? Well, it's supposed to go bad at the beginning.
No, it's a different thing.
Oh yeah.
Are you one of those guys that, like, when you're playing, you play the old quarter acoustic? The part of the thing is like bringing people in, telling a story that sets up a thing, and then boom, they all start laughing at it, and you start the song.
Yeah, I love that. I work on that. But that's not stand up. That's storytelling.
No.
Yeah, that's
I'm great at that.
Thing.
You're
Yeah.
probably great at that, and you think that you can turn around and just stand up and do this thing, but you're like, yeah, it was terrible.
You realize how much stuff you need, like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's an eternity.
An eternity.
When it comes to stuff like that.
Just standing there talking. Yeah.
And but you know what? It feels good to bomb. I've learned over the years in the beginning to really embrace bombing. And so when I do that, when I try to tell those stories and try to make them interesting, they don't always work. I actually like it when they don't.
Yeah.
And it makes everybody feel strange and weird.
Yeah.
And I like that feeling, and I've learned to embrace it, because I used to have stage fright and be terrified of that feeling.
Right.
But now I feel like it's just making me stronger and giving me armor or something.
It's that Will Ferrell thing, like whenever he presents something, whenever he has to do something that you have to be real serious, he just is fucking terrible, and that's the joke.
Yeah. I always mess up. Here's where I always mess up. If I've been asked to do like the first dance at a wedding or something like that, I will not, even if I've played the song for 20 years, I'll always have a lyric sheet. Like those type of formal events, that's when I take a dump.
Well, you know what? I hate to say that. That means that we're both admitting here that we're chokers.
Yeah.
Now, there have been a lot of times I haven't choked.
Sure. Yeah. I don't choke often.
But that first dance thing, I play in this band Skyrocket. That's like, we play weddings and shit. And every once in a while, it's my turn to sing the fucking Aerosmith song.
It's a lot of pressure, man.
And I do have the lyrics written down, and they make fun of me like, you didn't learn it. I'm like, yeah, I learned it, but this is their first dance. I don't want to go blank. Can I ask you this, because you said musicians do listen to this show, and there's a lot of musicians I notice even now putting on social media like, hey, vote for my album, it's up for a Grammy, or I've decided that I want someone to make it a Grammy, like whatever it is they're doing to do that. I don't know if you guys did that or if it just happened. I can't imagine a bluegrass band being like, having the guts to just be like, hey, let's submit our bluegrass album for a Grammy.
I have mixed feelings about asking for votes.
Yeah, it's weird.
When I didn't even know that our record had been submitted for the Grammys.
Right.
So I'm serious about that. The process goes like this. There's a deadline. You submit your record in the category that it's appropriate in. Right. And then a bunch of stuff happens and maybe you get nominated. So right. I didn't know that our record was out there being considered. So I just, when we found out, I was very, very, beyond surprised and shocked. Frankly, the bluegrass scene is small. There's not that many compared to in the Americana category that following year, there were like 400 something records submitted. And then in the bluegrass category, there were like 100. So it's a small category relatively. Sure. Relative. So, but
one of the things I was going to say was that it is a traditional thing, but in order for it to not keep shrinking and having like 50 people next year and 25 people the year after that, someone's got to do something to kind of push the edge, because you guys are bluegrass, but it's not just, it's your own interpretation of it. So you're pushing the boundaries of bluegrass somewhere. And I could see how that would be enticing to them to be like, okay, let's get these guys into this, these guys are doing something a little different.
And what really is the big honor is the nomination, because at least at the time, I don't know if the process has changed now, because I noticed a lot more people asking for votes.
It's weird, right? I've never seen that before.
I think it's a little weird. I used to see little bits of it, but now I see it everywhere. I think something might have changed.
It's like random people too. You're like, dude, seriously? Like,
yeah, I don't know.
Come on, man. You don't even sell out Saxon Pub.
I know.
You know what I mean?
I agree. But what happened in our year was that it gets whittled down somehow, and then there's a committee. I don't know how big or small it is, of people that really know bluegrass music and really know roots music. And they all really have to, in order to be on these committees, you have to really listen to the music.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's why it was such an honor, was because it was peer voted. And then these people really talked about the music that they were supposed to decide on.
Right.
As far as the top 5 when the nominations came out.
Right.
So I was quite proud of it.
Yeah, you should be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an amazing accomplishment.
Yeah, I mean, we did it together, and I guess I could still call myself a Grammy-nominated singer-songwriter, and those guys can do the same. But we did that as a group.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I mean, still are, but
sure,
yeah.
sure.
So my question is that for musicians probably are asking as well is what happens? Like, you know, I talked to Kathy Valentine about what happens once you get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Oh, well, then you can ask for this much more money. All of a sudden, you're going on tour with Billy Idol in Europe next year, and you're doing this thing, and you're playing bigger places. As a Grammy-nominated band, what happens to the band in the wake of that?
A lot of stuff didn't happen. A lot of stuff just stayed the same. We got a lot more attention. We got a lot more answers to emails. We got a lot more festival offers, and we saw those through. We had a really busy 2019, and we had a busy 2018 and 2017 too, but it was a little bit different. But I mean, in a few markets we saw jumps in ticket sales and stuff like that, but everything looked really good on the internet. But the truth is we had a handful of markets where we could kill it, and then most of the rest of the country we were playing very small crowds. So we were grinding really hard still, even after the Grammy nomination. But we definitely could get, I guess we could get a little more money at some festivals, sure. But what we really got what was really the coolest thing we got was just some really good validation for our families. You know, they sacrificed so much for us to do what we do.
Yeah. I didn't mean to laugh, but
No.
I'm like, yeah.
I got you. And we got to take them to Los Angeles.
Right.
Walk the red carpet with them.
Right.
And show them that, like, hey, this wasn't all for naught, you know.
Right.
And what it's gotten me now, and I hope the other guys too somewhat, is that in this new project, it definitely turns people's heads a little more. Like, maybe they're more likely to give it a listen, or when they read the copy from the publicist,
right,
like, oh, this guy was nominated for a Grammy. Maybe we should actually take a look at this, you know? So,
yeah.
It didn't do nothing, that's for sure. But I don't think it did as much as people may think, you know?
Right.
Sure.
That's, I remember having a couple of conversations. I work with the Austin Music Foundation, and
Right.
people had come in, and there was somebody that we were working with in an artist development program that was like, that was their goal. Like, I want to win a Grammy. And you're like, dude, it's fucking, you don't even have a van.
I know.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
but I mean, getting the nomination to win is way harder, especially in the folk and bluegrass and blues categories, these smaller categories. Name recognition is important
Sure.
once you're nominated, because then once you're nominated, every voting member can vote in every single category.
right.
When it comes down to the nominations itself, you can only vote or have influence in, or at least used to only be able to vote and have influence in, the categories that you knew.
Right.
So it's a little bit different.
So if there was like a Scruggs or something in that category, you'd be
Right.
screwed.
We lost. The band that won was the Traveling McCurries.
Okay.
And they deserved it. They're some of our best friends, and I love those guys.
Is it a good community, the bluegrass?
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Big time. I think it can be a little judgy from time to time,
Yeah.
but I think that's any music community, I'm learning. So, but bluegrass is such a difficult genre. It's so
Yeah.
hard to play, and some people literally go to college for it, and some people have done it since they were kids, that people are like, they're not doing it right, or they're not that good
Yeah.
in different ways. So it's I think there were some people that might have been a little surprised that we were on that list.
Do you know,
I was, you know.
Indian and the Jones?
Yeah, they're here.
Yeah.
They're great.
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
fantastic. Yeah.
My friend Sarah Dawsey, who does something completely differently,
Yeah.
you know.
I've seen her videos on Instagram. They're really good.
Yeah, she's great. It's funny because it's not. I don't have a proclivity to bluegrass. Because of it just, to me, and it's because I haven't delved into it. Like, someone thinks that like all salsa music sounds exactly alike. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But yours definitely didn't. Like, yours is very song driven, and to me, the other ones are more stylistically driven, and that style of, like, you know, just really fast and then ends. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that aren't into it, and I think that's okay. I think one of the reasons Wood and Wire was successful is because people would be like, I don't like bluegrass, but I really like your band. It was something about us that we weren't doing anything on purpose, but I think our influences individually outside of bluegrass came together collectively to make this interesting.
Can I ask you, are you guys still together?
We're just on a break right now. I don't know, honestly. Like, we're not together, but we're not like fielding any offers really. Okay. We have a meeting in a couple weeks to figure out what we're willing to do. We're all really busy.
With the girl I'm seeing later today.
What's that?
Have one of those with the girl I'm seeing later today.
This such is life, Johnny. It's funny how similar those things are.
There you go.
She's partying.
But that scared you.
I can only speak for myself. I get in trouble when I speak for the whole group.
Sure. And
I really think that we'll do some other stuff. I just don't know what or when or how and stuff like that.
Okay, so let's talk about the Tony Kamel situation.
That sounds great.
In a live situation.
Yeah.
Are you playing with the band?
I have been lately.
Yeah.
I do both things.
Okay.
So these last record release month I've had has been great. I put together a really good band.
Who was it?
Super lucky. So I had this guy, Patrick Hertzfeld, on drums, who I've known for years. Simon Page on the pedal steel guitar, who's great. Morgan Thompson on the bass. Scott Davis was playing guitar and accordion with me, and he plays guitar and accordion on the record. Noah Jeffries, who plays fiddle and mandolins on the record. And then I had...
it's a pretty big band.
Yeah, big band. I had the biggest form of it was a 7-piece.
Wow.
With Jen Hodges, formerly Jen Miori. She was in the Carper family a while back, singing harmonies with me on a few of those gigs. So big band, big, loud, fun, almost like a rock and roll band. Like, I actually was playing electric guitar on it because on a lot of these shows because I wanted to be loud and bring a strong energy.
Where were you playing? Because you're playing some different places, obviously, than you're playing with Wood and Wire.
Well, we did 2 shows at the Continental Club.
Yeah, that's right. Okay,
really fun. Both of them sold out, and it was a party. And then we played the Old Settlers Music Festival, Utopia Fest, Kerrville Folk Festival.
Hell yeah, man!
And, all those were really great. We played in Houston at the Mucky Duck.
There was no backlash. No Dylan at Newport.
No, no one had anything to compare.
He's
it to.
playing electric guitar now.
I guess that's true. I thought there'd be way more backlash about. Oh, what's Tony doing? This isn't bluegrass and.
It's his pop record.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know what I was expecting, but I didn't expect for it to go so well. I really didn't. I didn't expect people to be as excited as they were and for it to be as well received as it has been so far. But the live shows have been a blast. I mean, I love playing with drums and electric instruments. I'm going to do that as much as I can. There's
a great energy in this record.
Thank you.
That like a great like musical energy, like there's a real vibe.
Thank you. Thanks, and I hopefully I can keep trying to bring that across on stage. I still really, really, really love playing all by myself. That's still, I think, that's what I've done since I was young. And as far as from a performance standpoint, it's really one of my favorite ways to do things. And I'll play the songs differently. I'll play a little banjo. I'll play, maybe I'll pick up the electric guitar a little bit, but
even solo.
Nice. Yeah. I really try to make it a show by myself as opposed to just some dickhead with a guitar, So, not that that's a bad thing, not to play the other instruments and stuff or tell stories. Like, that's good too. But I'm telling, if I don't do that, then I feel like I'm just standing up there doing nothing. So.
Right.
Yeah.
How old are you?
38.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you came up in the time when people were using loopers and stuff, and but you still, I mean, the old quarter, there's not looping guys there so much. It's what you do when you go and like. I feel that way sometimes when I go play solo now. I feel my age, like I feel like an old dude, and like.
Oh really?
So I don't have like
How so?
18 different things here. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I'll bring a Casio and do some weird shit, but it ends up being stupid, or like an omnichord or something, or a drum machine, something to be fun, but like. The looping thing turned me off because, like, when I first started seeing people do it, it was like 3.5 minutes before you start singing the first verse,
right?
And I'm checked out by then.
Sure, I think there's a real art form to the looping thing, but I just can't get into it for me to perform
Yeah.
that way. I like watching it.
You ever seen Poltz? Steve Poltz?
Oh, I love Steve Poltz.
Steve Poltz does it a couple times in
Right.
the thing, and it's a fucking event.
Right.
It's
right.
amazing.
Right. He uses it very appropriately.
And sparingly, judiciously.
So if you look at Steve and you see what he does, how he'll have people come out and just be on the edge of their seat, ready just to see what he does.
Or to catch him.
Yeah. To catch him, literally catch him physically.
Yeah.
He's really one of my heroes.
Oh, yeah, me
because
too.
To be able to entertain a crowd all by yourself like that is one of my biggest creative goals.
I think, and I've said this before a few times, I think he might be the very best performer I've ever seen live.
It's amazing. And he's such a good guy. And I don't really know
Great
him,
guy.
but I talked to him and hung out with him for the first time at Old Settlers. And
Yeah.
he couldn't have been more real and cool.
Yeah.
So
You know, we've done a couple of these. One of them we did in a hotel room. It was super hilarious. But another one, he came here. He's got so much energy as a human being. Like when we sat down, I was like, you know what? This isn't going to work, dude. So I grabbed a handheld thing and we walked 4.5 miles around the
awesome.
lake. And,
Sounds like
yeah,
fun.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that I really feel like as far as the long-term arc of my musical career, what I hope is long-term, I want to be able to just play by myself, you know, and still play with a band. But I want to have this other thing I do where I'm just by myself and people want to see that, like Todd Snyder or
Right.
Jack Elliott
Right.
or something like that.
Right.
And it takes just as much work on that,
Yeah.
on the stories and the keeping people entertained between
Yeah.
the songs as it does on writing and learning the songs.
Well, because you don't have drums, you don't have explosions like a Kiss concert. You got to have something worth that ticket price that people aren't going to be able to get from just listening to your record or watching you
Yeah.
on a YouTube thing.
Yeah, and I think the thing I keep going back to on it, the more I do it, is being sort of open and honest and just sort of giving part of yourself to the crowd to latch on to.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and not being afraid to try stuff and to talk about certain things, whether they're sad or weird and stuff like that.
Right.
So
Well, a career like Steve's to me is almost the dream, right? I mean, you have a thing where you wrote a song. I mean, I'm sure now it's, you know, everyone's mailbox money has been demolished,
Sure.
but you know, and he's earned this place for himself that in this world, like, you know, he does huge house concerts and he does whatever that Casey Turner guy. Do you guys do that? Did you guys
I've never
do
done that, but I've always
You know what I'm
wanted
talking
to.
about?
Yeah. Yeah.
He seems pretty exclusive. Like when you don't, like, I was around him one time with Bob Schneider or something, and Bob was like, "Oh, you know, just check out my friend Johnny's record." He's just like, "Nope, not checking out." Like, he didn't say it, but he had that vibe of like, "Nope." And I was like, "Oh, I'm not in the thing with the guy."
It never goes away, that thing.
No,
You know?
it doesn't.
You always want to be, there's always this kid in me that's like, as much as I like to say, I don't give a fuck what people think, and I don't overall, but
You do.
there's something in every one of us that's just that kid that wants to be included, you know?
Well, and it's a good feeling when somebody in your peers, like, I mean, honestly, like I connected. I mean, I don't know if it's the specificity of everything in my connection to the area that you're talking about or anything, but your record's great. I think even if I couldn't hear the lyrics and didn't know what it was about, I mean, it moved me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
I mean, you're a really, really, really amazing songwriter.
Thanks, Johnny. So
Yeah.
are you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that very much. It means a lot.
Thanks, man.
This is just what I'm going to do, you know? I mean, I'm too old to do anything else now, so I might as well put all my eggs in that basket.
That's what, yeah. I remember one time during one of my, I'm going to do something else. So it was like, what would you do? And I'm like, I don't know. What am I going to wake up tomorrow and be a fucking dentist or something? Like,
Right.
I'm not trained for anything.
How am I going to explain an 11-year gap in my resume in a job interview?
Well, there's that thing of like, if you ever want to see a real person in entertainment, like an entertainer, artist, something like that, ask them to fill out a form that most people normally fill out. It's
There's
like
some
the
truth to
most
that,
confusing
yeah.
thing you've ever seen. So you're married?
Yes, my 3-year anniversary is tomorrow.
Oh, congratulations,
Thank you.
man.
Thank you very much.
And you have a baby?
Almost 6-month-old baby.
Wow.
Yeah, she's been really, really fun.
So how did you guys do during COVID? How did you?
Well, we made a baby.
That's a good job.
We did fine.
Did that the first week?
Yeah, right, pretty much. I think overall we did fine. It was a blessing for me in a lot of ways. My wife was able to work from home, and she's fortunate. We are fortunate in that she's works for a good company that was able to continue, and she didn't get laid off or anything. And I just we sort of hunkered down. And the first part of COVID, we were prepping for the release of the last Wooden Wire record. So I was working on that for the whole year. And then as that slowed down and basically turned around and started working on other records. So I've been busy, and it's been a fruitful COVID for me, I admit. I've not lost anyone close to me, and I've managed to stay healthy. We made a baby, and she's healthy, eats well, sleeps well, and no problem. So I couldn't be more fortunate and lucky.
Yeah. And you're playing gigs, I saw.
Yeah.
I didn't write any down because I don't know exactly when this is coming out. But,
okay.
It's sometime in the next couple of weeks. But you got stuff going on. People can find you at TonyCamelMusic.com.
Yeah, I'd say...
Anything big coming up? Anything?
No, not right now. I'm going to do a bunch of opening gigs for people.
Oh, cool.
Solo. I'm going to do a bunch of... In the wintertime, I always do a bunch of solo gigs.
Okay.
So we'll get the band back together probably in late January. But I am going to play at Saxon Pub on December 17th all by myself. Just solo show. Never done that here. Never done a ticketed solo show in Austin ever. It could go really
This is going to come out definitely beforehand.
What's that?
This will come out way before then.
Okay, good,
Yeah,
good. So December 17th, Saxon Pub all by myself. I'll try to just see how it goes. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be
That's a
all
good
by
stage. I enjoy that. I enjoy that room. I like you played the Cactus.
Oh yeah,
by yourself
as an opener.
Yeah, it's a good.
It's my favorite.
Who are you opening for? Anyone cool?
I'm opening for Bruce and Kelly a couple times.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And
I love them, man.
Yeah, they're great.
I really do.
Yeah, they've been so good to me, and watching them perform is always a clinic.
Yeah.
On how to work together and stuff
like
that. And
it's amazing. Also, like, what was the thing that I did? Some Dudley and Bob anniversary thing, and it was at the Paramount, and I was in the house band, but I also sang a song. But we also backed up a bunch of people, and we did them. They were doing Islands in the Stream, and there's a weird key change in that Islands in the Stream.
I don't know. I don't remember.
In the verse, in the middle of the verse, like when she starts singing, it moves not
they
a
go
normal
back and
key
forth.
change. It goes into like this weird new register.
I'll have to listen to that on the way home.
So anyway, I'm playing like Rhodes or some shit on it, and I had kind of copped the thing, but then over the days that we were rehearsing without them, I decided that I was going to present Bruce and Kelly with my own part that I had invented for the song.
A vocal part?
No.
On the keys. Okay, cool.
Bruce was very quick to like, hey,
yeah,
that's not the thing that's on there that I like. And
yeah,
I was like, okay.
He's all about his whole thing, especially for his stuff, is simplicity.
I respect the shit out of him for that,
man,
too.
for sure.
And also to be able to turn to someone that you've known for, 25, almost 30 fucking years, and not bitch slap him, but I could have taken it that way very easily.
He's a really honest creator and collaborator.
Yeah, and I appreciated his just like, hey, that's not what I came here for.
Yeah, and that's something that I really appreciated in him and appreciated in most of the people I've worked with when we were gathering songs for the record, or he wanted to hear what I had.
Yeah.
About a year ago. Or maybe a little more than a while ago. He was like, I showed him a bunch of songs.
Yeah.
But there were only a handful that he was like, I'm really into these.
Right,
and there were a few that I was like, I thought this would be cool. And he didn't really like it. But I was like, okay. So fortunately, I was feeling really creative at the time. So I was able to write a couple of more songs. Then I dug deep into some voice memos and tried to find some stuff that I might have forgotten about and did.
Yeah.
But his honesty about what he thought would work, I think is one of the main things that made this record cool. Made this group of songs cool because they were pretty different group of songs. It seemed a little all over the map at first. We managed to sort of make them flow.
Yeah.
But it was just a combination of so many different things, and his honesty as a collaborator was a huge factor.
Yeah. Well,
really
it shows, man.
that.
You guys, the care that you guys put into it definitely shows.
Thanks, Johnny. It means a lot, man.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah,
It
it's a
really does.
fantastic record, fantastic podcast. Back Down Home, Beyond the
Liner Notes.
Beyond the Liner Notes is the podcast.
The next episode I think I'm going to put out is going to be a little different. I have some family property that's been in the family since the 70s in Llano, Texas.
Uh-huh.
And I usually, when I have a group of tunes that I've started, I go there to dig in and finish some of them, or at least progress on all of them, but just isolate. And so I kind of had this, it was the first episode that I made last spring, where I just essentially interviewed my great uncle and my cousins about the history of the place and sort of the history of my family in Texas, because my granddad's been gone for a while.
Yeah,
and stuff
yeah.
like that. So it's a little bit of an offshoot, but it gives a history of this place where I sit down and try to get the songs ready. So
Yeah.
that'll be a little different.
That's cool, man.
I hope so.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I enjoyed your format. You put it together real. It sounds like it takes some editing.
Dude, doing this podcast thing is so much work, man.
It is.
I
I don't edit, or I wouldn't do it.
You don't edit it? Okay.
I don't edit it unless I have to take something out.
Yeah, it takes forever. I mean,
Yeah.
you and I both know how to edit audio.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I know how to
man,
do it. I don't want to
sit
do
there-
it. It's like
yeah.
having a fucking computer job or something.
It takes so long, and it really is like having a computer job. I mean,
Yeah.
I enjoyed it at the beginning, and now I'm like, oh my god, I have so much work to do.
Yeah.
So, and now and nowadays to get it done, I wake up at like 4:30 or 5 in the morning, so I can get a few hours of it done before my kid wakes
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
It's
That's
the
what
only
my
time.
okay. So I've got a cousin that went to UTMB, graduated, ended up working there in Galveston at that hospital.
Mm-hmm.
She was there when we were there last Christmas.
Yeah.
She's since moved to New York, but her husband Adam, they had a baby last year during COVID as well. Her husband Adam is a huge fan of Galveston. Like he just like, you can ask him anything. It takes you on the little guides. He was a boat guy that take you around the island and shit. So anyway, he has a podcast and they have a baby, and he has to do a lot of editing on his, and he does all of that. Like we've done some baby watching when we were at the beach,
Right.
so that he could go and edit his podcast at
What's
Starbucks.
this podcast about?
It's awesome. It's like an episode by episode breakdown of Law and Order SVU.
Oh,
It's
wow.
like one episode of Law and Order SVU per episode of theirs.
Oh, I want to listen to that.
Yeah, it's really fun. They're really funny, and they just kind of point out the insanity of the whole thing. And that
I'm
show
into
is
it.
insane.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of work. Like a
lot of work.
A show like that would take a lot of work.
Oh yeah, and one guy's like in LA, the other guy's in New York now. So anyway, dude, this has been incredible talking to you.
Likewise.
I can't tell you how much I love this album. I'm so
Thank
glad
you.
that I got turned on to you as an artist, and I hope that we can stay in touch. And
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I definitely want to come see you play and stuff.
I know we did meet one time like 4 or 5 years ago. It was really brief when I was thinking about it earlier today, but it was so brief that it didn't even count. So it's nice
Where
to
was
meet
it?
you for real. I think it was outside Waterloo Records, and I don't remember who you were with. I want to say you might have been with Daisy or something. We're just like, someone had just played inside, and there were a bunch of musicians that went to see him play.
Yep.
And I was there, and I was just kind of getting started in music.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm glad that.
Well,
I made it.
congratulations, man. Congratulations on
Thanks,
such a
Johnny.
great album, and I'm glad you're a great songwriter. We need more of those.
Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I don't know what else to say other than that means a lot. Thank
Yeah,
you
man.
very
Everyone get out there and check out Next Waltz Records. Back Down Home on Next Waltz Records. Go to TonyCamel.com or TonyCamelMusic.com
much. There it is. Yeah.
for tour dates and stuff.
Yeah, and all my social media handles are at Tony Camel Music, and my last name is spelled with a K, Kamel. I'm destined to have to explain that for the rest of my life. Otherwise, you'll look up Camel.
That's Tony Camel from Wooden Wire. Get out there and check out this record, Back Down Home. And don't forget to check out the Back Down Home podcast, which is absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed getting to know Tony. What a great guy. What a great guy. What a good time. Good hang. Great guy. Great fucking record. Get out there and check it out. Bruce Robinson's a great producer. Find Tony at TonyCamelMusic.com. And don't forget, when you're out there checking out Tony Camel Music Gang, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast wherever it is that you find podcasts, be it Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Overcast, Spotify, Stitcher. You can use the Podbean app and access all 1,120 episodes of How Did I Get Here, along with all of your other favorite podcasts. including Fresh Air, WTF with Mark Maron, all kinds of stuff on there. You can find it all. All right? Let's listen to the rest of this song, Heat. That is on Back Down Home by Tony Kamel. I hope you guys have a great week, whatever it is you're doing. Let's get down.
Look out the window, out in the street. It burns like a banjo. Bring on the heat. They two-step a little different than the Texas way. In the fall with a rhythm from above. Show me how you're grooving, oh Lord have mercy. Two by two step, show me how you love. They two-step a little different than the Texas way. And they're born with a rhythm from above. Show me how you're grooving, oh Lord have mercy. Two by two step, show me how you love. Look out the window, out in the street. It burns like a banjo. Bring